It's been a few weeks that's been some weeks. Um, I was actually quite ill on reflection. So, formal diagnosis for those of you medically inclined was streptococcal septicemia. It nearly landed me in hospital. Still got a bit of a remnant cough from it. I was not good. And then a lot of issues with the Royal College of Physicians. We're not going to talk about it this one. There's process to follow. People want process, so let's do process. So we're not going to talk about that. I'm sure we will. I'm pretty confident we will. About a lot of things. But for this podcast, it won't be about that. And then, of course, the Leng review came out. So there's lots of stuff. But in the middle, thankfully, we had some holidays planned. So went on a nice holiday, Seychelles, and great. Come back, refreshed, batteries really recharged, lots of new focus, gave me time to think about what the next steps would be, what to do next. But all I can tell you is that there's no stepping away or going away from what I perceive to be the wrong things. And there isn't a huge amount of people. It always seems like a cottery bunch of people trying to sort of make the right changes. And so, which brings us to the Leng review. It's been fascinating. It's been the first time I picked this whole saga up, if I'm very honest about PAs and AAs, so I came into the Royal College of Physicians as one of the elected councillors I think election was in April 2023. Yeah. And anyway, it definitely wasn't on the horizon, wasn't on my sort of, the thing that you have to do to him, could you kindly get me elected or consider me for votes? Mine was very much predicated or sort of focused on international medical graduates and trainees, Generation Next. Then I came along, and the first time I heard about PAs and AAs was probably around about August, September time. I think August is when I first started, and this is not derogatory to anybody who's a PA or AA, but to me, a PA was always a session in consultant time, planned activity as it's called. And AA, frankly, was very much limited to, Alcoholics Anonymous, you read in books, and that's, as I said, not derogatory to anybody. I just didn't know. And then I started to know more. Well, I remember going to my first council meeting in September and surrounded by people who all thought it was fantastic. I was told there was unanimous support, which I had to correct straight away because I said, well, unanimous would involve everybody, and I'm pretty sure I didn't say I had unconditional support towards PAs. But anyway, long story about that. The bottom line is that, bar a few handful of people in the Royal College of Physicians Council, literally nobody in NHS England or even GMC that I know about, because I work with everybody, I could think of anybody who felt, you know what, we don't think it's a great idea. We don't think it's a great idea. And I think the Royal College of Physicians probably could count about four people who would talk about it and raise their voices. And that's about it. I don't think anybody, even if they did, they never came out in public, whatever be the case. So fast track forward to the Leng review, and listen, I think the Leng review, I've got a BMJ article out there, my views. I had written about the Leng review coming forward. I had been speaking about having a review and just re-looking at the whole thing rather than the continued battle and toxicity. And I think I first wrote about it in, I think it's November 23. So I don't know, 18 months, everybody faffed around for a long time. Everything's exploded on social media. And then the National Review comes along, and I had predicted what the National Review would have said to a certain extent. That I don't think it would have answered either camps. One camp was, do PAs need to exist at all? And the other one was, PAs can do whatever they are carrying on to doing or whatever they want to do. And neither of them have come true, as I had predicted. It's come up with some strong recommendations. I think it's a pragmatic one. I think it gives opportunities for lots of people to work towards it. But what has fascinated me is, I must say, the response from people. I mean, NHS England and the Department of Health have absolutely gone hammer and tongs at it and just gone, yeah, we accept everything. Change the name right now, tomorrow, do this, put them into, which is very interesting because there were clear divided lines of camps. I mean, Steve Powis, the then medical director of NHS England, came to the Royal College of Physicians extraordinary general meeting and spoke against the motion. We had Chris Whitty, the chief medical officer at that time, agreeing with Sarah Clark that this was just some social media noise and people obstructing progress, so things to that effect. Naveen Evans was continuously strong and steadfast in his support, as was shown on McLeod. So for them to completely turn around and go, all right, that's it. We now want to change everything. If you were a PA or AA, you would be mighty pissed off, honestly, because you were thinking, what the hell happened there, right? There's a lot of people in lots of organizations who have egged on PAs and given them seats, rightly, wrongly. I had raised it with a lot of people, NHS employees, and are you sure? And this is representative of all the PAs out there. And we are here now, whereby the PA union, as they are registered or call themselves, have now opposed the Leng review. They're looking at what they need to do to challenge it. And you know what? I don't blame anybody for it. You know, that's the job. And they have been consistent. And they will have a feeling of being absolutely sucker punched into this. And spare a thought for people beyond the sort of political side of it. I mean, Jesus, to go to uni, do a degree, being sold an absolute pup that you'd be allowed to do X, Y, and Z and not being told, but not really, is fascinating. And which brings us to the next point, right? I think that this thing will evolve as it will, and West Streeting and NHS England via the medical directors have clearly revealed their hands as to what they want to do. Change the name, change this, change that. And I think the toxicity that's been out there and the negative publicity that's come around for the public has been such a lightning rod for a lot of other things. But what it has done, I think it's really hampered the whole role, which is a bit of a shame because, I think a lot of people could have done with a lot of help, right? To help doctors in their jobs. And I don't know, it doesn't affect me. You see, it doesn't affect me in the slightest if PAs are here. Hey, listen, I'm 52 years old. I've got, I don't have any PAs working with me. I've personally said that I don't think they've got a role in type 1 diabetes care, which is my area of specialty. Do they have a role in type 2 diabetes? I think, yeah, with the right training, they could do some stuff which a lot of practice nurses are doing. Will they be running diabetes clinics? No, shouldn't. Will they be? But shouldn't. What my view would be, as long as they have the right training. I've had this discussion about should pharmacists be doing, yeah, with the right training, chronic disease, a lot of stuff can be done. So it doesn't really affect me in any shape or form, but it does affect a lot of our generation next. And that annoys me. I think I've always looked at, and which brings us to the present thing that you have around the whole right now the strikes. And I've got only two things to say to people, to senior clinicians who come out and tut at people. None of us had the privilege. None of us, sorry, other way around. None of us really did the role that a lot of these people are doing. The debts, the insecurity of jobs, pay, the competition battling with, which is a absolute full on, in my view, doctor replacement stuff going on around the NHS. Um, so it's not fair, in my view, for clinicians. I think I don't mind politicians coming out, managers coming out and speaking about it for the benefit of the NHS, but I think to a lot of clinicians, apart from if you don't declare your national awards, your local C award, which have now gone, your pension pot, which none of these kids will have, your lack of debt. If you don't declare, and don't give me that nonsense about oh, you used to work lots, so did I, right? I mean, I work shitloads of hours, but I still don't think it's right for us as clinicians to go and dump on our generation next. And to be honest, that's one. And what really irks me is when you have clinicians come out and go like, "Oh my God, this is going to really harm patient safety," and that really boils my blood because you know what? I do a national role, and there are safety issues every day, everywhere. Every day, everywhere, right? Insulin errors in my world, big problems, issues with staffing, issues with education, issues with coverage. Um, None of these clinicians come out and talk about it. Nobody comes out and says how wrong it is. Maternity has its own. You pay so much legal bills about error, safety issues. Staffing is low. It's never full. You ask nurses to do dangerous coverage, but none of these clinicians come out and share their outrage. So the desire to be in the tent, the desire to be the spokesperson, the desire to go up the ranks or whatever it may be. Be honest to yourself is my only request to all of you. And before people say anything else, I've said this before. I have done 10 years national roles, a lot more than a lot of other senior people who will be confident, and I've got some outcomes to boot as to what I've achieved and what I can and will continue to do. So I say it from a position of strength that I think people need to have more stronger backbone and be honest. If you want to blame resident doctors for safety issues or delay in, I don't know, waiting lists being seen, I don't think we're being honest, are we? And we need to reflect that. We need to reflect that in our talks. So that's my view. That's my rant about the resident doctor strikes, and people's attitude towards it. Again, don't get me wrong. I have no issues with politicians sort of defying it, managerial. But, they're all doing their jobs, and everybody's doing. We may not agree with it as doctors, but I think as doctors, you ourselves in a senior position, we should reassess what we say about our generation next. You can't talk about, oh, morale and, in my days, oh, come on, if you don't support them, why would they? So there's that. So the Leng review, going back to the Leng review, so that's arrived, and I think if people feel that it's the line in the sand and the PAs are going to go, I don't think so. I think things will evolve. There's enough in there for people to work who want to, and I think last year it predicted that where this would all go is that there'll be pockets of areas whereby I think due to strong senior support and their belief in PAs, areas such as Sheffield, Plymouth, St. George's, you will continue to have PAs, I think, working there. And I think in a lot of other places, people will be very nervous about taking them on, especially in light of the fact that, you have doctors without jobs, you have all this kerfuffle about international medical graduates and where they sit in. What happens to the rules with the international medical graduates, with the workforce plan, etc. Which brings me nicely to the workforce plan, which is due to come out, which is, I have never minced any words about it, but that's the biggest example of failure ever. I mean, how can you call it a long-term workforce plan in 2023? And then by 2024, you were having a refresh, and by 2025, it's basically a redraft. I mean, that's just the worst planning ever. And you've seen that in the implementation of PAs. Half-cocked, arrogant, throwing around things, making sure it will happen, trying to bully people. Didn't work. And look at how many careers you have upended by that approach, by just going head to head against doctors and feeling that that would be an amazingly clever way to do things. So we're going through a rewrite, and I don't know who's rewriting it, but what I do know is that if there are people associated with it who wrote the last one, it will be another bunch of Horlicks. I can absolutely tell you that. And this is the NHS way of doing it. I just don't understand it, whereby we've got people who have failed at one thing. So you go like, do you know what? Do you want to do a rewrite? Or so let's make you do it again. And that's what the NHS does. And it's so interesting to see how things go with that. And then there's a training review, which has been written by, I think, Steve Powers and Chris Whitty, which takes me back to what I said, whereby both of them are strongly in favor of PAs. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to reflect all that. And I have not heard much of a talk about where international medical graduates would fit in, all these people in locally employed jobs. And oh, goodness me, I work with the GMC on locally employed jobs. The Royal College of Physicians say, listen, I wrote the document about LEDs and what should be happening. Trust me, nobody's done any work on locally employed doctors. NHS England has not even got a piece of document on it. It's the largest growing workforce. Nobody cares much about training or whatever. And loads of international medical graduates have been doing those roles. And now they're looking at, are we going to do this? And so it's a mess. So is Chris Whitty and Steve Powers the best person to write this? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it to me, but what do we know? And then finally, where does the Leng review leave the Royal Colleges? I think that would be interesting because I think Gillian Leng has been quite clear about the college's involvement in planning it. And it slightly makes me nervous because I've seen the Royal College General Practitioner, interestingly, got a very strong position on it, which is a full U-turn. And do you know what? I mean, I think that's I don't know whether it's a testament to people concerned that they've taken that on the chin, even though they have firmly advocated for it in their leadership roles. And they said, fair enough, our members have said so, so we will follow it through. And they've stuck by it, which is said we don't think they have a role for right or wrong. The Royal College of Physicians is an interesting one because they've had their opportunity to do similar and they decided not to. They said, no, we believe PAs have a role. Um, they all the draft writing, all the scope writing, there was the interim scope or whatever. Lots of times there was opportunity to talk about should their level be less than an FY1, and people decided not to. We have had people discussing associate members, so there is that huge affinity towards PAs, which do continue. Um, so it'd be fascinating to see how it all pans out with the workforce plan coming, the training plan coming, international medical graduate. There's a massive, massive things coming forward. So that would be fascinating to see how this all evolves. And I've got this thing, I think that if people are consistently doing all sorts of, behind the scenes maneuvers to sort of undermine doctors. I don't think they necessarily change. I don't think they do. I think they stay the same. And that's politics, right? Politicians can change very quickly. So medical politics is no different. But there we are. So that's my view on the Leng review, bit of the resident doctor strikes, the upcoming workforce. What would my role in that? Well, I think my role would be the same as before. Carry on speaking up for international medical graduates. If I see something that hampers um, resident doctors, I'll use all my forums to raise things about it. I think they are the generation next. They are the ones who carry the system forward, and it doesn't. And I think underhand workings to try and ensure that you encourage more and more. Doctor replacement, we'll fight it. It might be a small coterie of people, but that's fine. I think the whole saga around PAs have shown what a small group of determined people can do. And I think hats off to a few of the anonymous accounts, after all the criticism they've taken, people like David Nicol, the whole group of people who drew the EGM, the people in the RCGP who drew the challenges. I think it's fantastic what people have achieved, and I think it's hope. And I think I would like to finish this sort of this YouTube by saying that to everybody who listens, I think if anything, there's a small sliver of hope that you can battle the system. And in spite of everybody talking about, how things have stacked out, let's take it for a moment. If you go back to where we were, who were against doctors even raising issues of PAs, referral to GMCs, referral to your trusts. Let's start. General Medical Council, NHS England Workforce Training and Education Department, Department of Health, most specialist societies, you name it, right? Royal College of Physicians, Royal College of General Practitioners, everybody. And all of those organizations fell in the end to basically what was a grassroots movement. So it's there, it's doable. And I think I would ask everybody to hold your spine and, hold that integrity. Never compromise, right? And as I said right at the beginning, lots of things will be discussed about my time with the Royal College of Physicians. But one thing I can tell you is that regrets there are none and never will be. I've been asked as to whether, I should reflect and, be more contrite. There is a, saying that, you should reflect and you should be contrite about things you've done wrong. Standing up for Generation Next is not wrong, however you put it. And you can put me under professional governance. You can discuss anything you want. I may use the rules, but you won't be able to silence me. Nobody has in my whole career, battling against the system or battling against authority. Let me see. College, yep. University, yep. NHS as a registrar, yeah. Sorry, before that, SHO, definitely. Consultant in my own trust, yeah, every single step. NHS England, 100%. It's not a problem. And I'm still here, and I think that's what my advice to everybody. Learn to stand up. So, and I think there's a lesson there from the Leng review for everybody to consider. So I'll end there. And as ever, a pleasure talking to everybody. Subscribe, listen to the other podcasts. There's some fantastic ones. I mean, if you haven't listened to Stephanie Georgia's views on the whole obesity kerfuffle, you should. James Norton, as ever, as a good friend, talking about type 1 diabetes. So, yeah, have a listen, log in, have a look. There'll be more such chats. And I would like to, in the next few episodes, invite a few people who've been involved in the whole work around training, etc., to talk about their sort of journey. But that's fantastic, and this is a lovely forum. But yeah, so I'll finish with that. Stay true to your core, have that integrity within you. Trust me, the blessings of many will always overcome the evils or the illnesses of a few. Always. That's my experience in life. So keep at it, keep working. And if you're a resident doctor listening to this, always will stand by you. And if you're a senior clinician who listens to this, good on you for standing by Generation Next. And if that's something you cannot do, then just remember the privilege we have as well, so rather than anything else. And finally, a big thank you to Gillian Leng for what I think is probably really been a tough balancing act to do. And it's probably, I've been questioned many times because I've written about keeping my faith in Jill, and I've known Jill for a long time. And you know what? There's probably about 3 or 4 people in the whole of the NHS I really respect. And I think you can add a fifth one to that, which is Jill. And it will always be a part of my journey in life of learning, the opportunity to contribute to it, the opportunity to discuss with her. It's been wonderful. And to be vindicated at the end of it all has also been wonderful. It's been worth 2 years of the battle. So hopefully we shall see how the system works in the future. But for now, thank you, goodbye, or as we say in India, namaste, milte hain fir. Thank you.